Seems like the next God of War game is going to take place in a Norse mythological setting. It all started when Shinobi602, a very reliable leaker, tweeted the following: "Across the Rainbow Bridge and into the halls of Valhalla, #God of War 4. Now it is important to note that Shinobi602 doesn't actually work in the gaming industry himself. The reason why he is privy to all sorts of secrets going on in the industry is because he has anonymous sources that do actually work in it and tell him what's going on from time to time. Or at least, that's the impressions I've gotten. He does have a very good track record, so I definitely believed him at the time. He was right about Black Ops 3's futuristic setting, for instance, and how it would have jetpacks in a similar way to Titanfall. This was then immediately followed by websites by the name of NerdLeaks uncovering some concept art from what looks to be a new God of War game on the personal website of an artist who worked at Sony Santa Monica last year. The reason why I didn't put the leaked images in this video is because they are technically stolen, as the images were password protected even though they could be found easily within the source code. This was probably why the site was taken down shortly after, along with their Twitter account. It's been archived on the God of War subreddit however, and I have put a link down in the description below if you are interested in having a sneak peek. Now, Polygon sources have confirmed that the artwork is legitimate, and it turned out that there were uncorroborated rumblings going on in the industry that the next God of War game would indeed be going Norse, so I definitely think it's going to happen. The artwork mentioned that 2 of the 9 worlds of Norse mythology, Alfheim and Vanaheim, would be featured in the game. They seem to be quite distinct looking environments, with Alfheim looking like some sort of city made entirely of stone, and Vanaheim being a large colourful forest, with the vegetation playing a part in the puzzle solving. We also see the protagonist in an environment that looks similar to a prison, which might tie into the motivation that he'll have throughout the game. So it is great to see that they are capitalising on the setting by producing some very colourful looking environments with a grand sense of scale, something which the God of War series has always been known for. What we see is a character that looks very similar to Kratos, and the artwork even refers to him as such. This prompted many people to get their pitchforks out when they saw this, because they hated the idea of Kratos coming back for yet another game, but what does it actually mean when it refers to him? Will the Kratos that we've come to know from the previous games be back for another God of War game? I don't think so, and here's why. It is kind of obvious to me what the artwork means, and I am surprised to see that no one else has mentioned it so far. I think that God of War 4 is going to take place in an alternate universe where the Norse gods rule the Earth instead, which I will refer to as Earth 2 from now on. Yes, if you haven't noticed already, I am a huge fan of what the Flash TV show is doing in its 2nd season, but that is not the only reason why I think this. So yeah, if you are up to date with that show or you have played Bioshock Infinite, you already have a good idea of what I mean. The God of War series has already done some wacky stuff before, like time travel in God of War 2, which is what that game was ultimately all about, so I don't see why they wouldn't go down the route of an alternate universe, especially when the same director from God of War 2 is attached to direct this one. So the Earth 2 version of Kratos will have been through a much different sequence of events to the Kratos that existed in the world of the Greek gods. He won't have had his brother taken away from him when he was younger, nor would he have been tricked into killing his wife and daughter by a god. This should ultimately mean that Earth 2 Kratos will have a much different personality, which should come as a delight to those that don't like the Kratos from Earth 1. We will probably end up with a much more subdued version of Kratos, but I think that there will be familiar elements that remind us a bit of the old Kratos, like his rage. Personally, I fucking love the character because I think he is the epitome of a badass, but that is another video in itself. The thing that really convinced me of this was the fact that the Kratos character model featured in the art wasn't covered in ashes. This one still gets to keep his olive complexion, and fans of the series will know that ever since we first picked up the controller to play as Kratos, he has always been covered in ashes. The only time we got to see him otherwise were in flashbacks. The game's director also confirmed at PSX in 2014 that this one definitely won't be a prequel, but he never directly said that it would be a sequel to God of War 3, which supports this further. I don't think they would keep the same Kratos but take away his ashes because it serves as an important reminder of his past. Plus, after 7 or so games, putting the same version of Kratos that we've come to know in yet another game is kind of redundant in my opinion, because I don't know where else they would be able to take his character. And this is coming from someone who is a huge fan of Kratos. If this does end up being true, I honestly think that this is the best decision that they could have made to introduce something different, while at the same time retaining the look and style of the character who has become such a famous icon for PlayStation. Whether you like it or not, Kratos is the face of the series, so you can't just get rid of him completely. It's like having an Uncharted game without Nathan Drake. Plus I am sure the writers at the studio are also tired of writing the same character, so I feel like they would have come up with something different in order to spice things up. I don't think I would be ready to see a God of War game without TC Carson's iconic voice anyway. He did such a phenomenal job, and he is the voice of the God of War, so this would also be a good way to keep him on. Hopefully they'll also bring back Guy's voice actor Linda Hunt to narrate the story, as in my opinion it plays almost as big a part in the games as Kratos does. If this ends up being true, it would also mean that they could continue the series indefinitely, so long as the team at Santa Monica wants to, and the quality of each game stays high. For example, they could also do an Egyptian version of Kratos in Earth 3, where Egyptian gods like Set rule. The only thing I saw that makes me a bit nervous is the replacement of the Blades of Chaos with an axe. The Blades of Chaos have always been the bread and butter of this series, and they play a huge role in making the game so satisfying to play. So I don't see how an axe could serve as a worthy replacement for such a core aspect of the series. Then again, we haven't seen it in action yet, as well as the way it will be integrated into combat, so who am I to judge? Early artwork isn't usually very conclusive of what the final game will be like, so maybe the axe will end up looking and working differently. However, the artwork does make it clear that the axe will have other uses outside of combat, such as puzzle solving and traversal, which is nice to see as this was also the case for the Blades of Chaos. We should also applaud the developers for taking a risk and trying something new. We have had 6 games now with the blade serving as the core weapon, so maybe we needed something different in order to help refresh the series more. I am just unsure whether a weapon that is as simple as an axe would be able to do this in a good way. The only thing that throws a spanner in the works of this theory is if you look at the resume page of animator Harry Walton, where it says that he helped to animate Gorgon and Hydra creatures in a CG trailer for a new God of War game. It says he works for BrainZoo Studios, who are known for making CG trailers for upcoming games, and it is also said that this was done for a special venue, which we can only assume means E3. Now, Gorgons and Hydras come from Greek mythology, not Norse, so I was really surprised to see this because it is wildly inconsistent with everything that we have read and seen so far. Even before the concept arts leaked, there were rumours that they were going Norse with the next God of War. Furthermore, the game has been in production since around August 2013, so you would think that they would have more than a CG trailer to show at this point and a full-on gameplay demo instead. It is quite a weird anomaly, so who knows what this actually means. Maybe they have decided to bring over some of the creatures from Greek mythology to fight Earth 2 Kratos, but you would think that they would have plenty to choose from already in a Norse setting where you can have creatures like dragons. Interestingly enough, David Jaffe, the original creator of the God of War series, said that the shift to Norse mythology was actually considered a while ago. He tweeted back in 2010 that his story was not just Kratos simply going after the Norse gods, but that there was an element of truth to it that goes far beyond. I'm pretty sure that when he tweeted this, he was referring to what he had in mind for the third God of War game. It involved a portal opening up after Kratos kills Zeus, which would be at the beginning of the game. This portal would then let in all of the gods from the different mythologies, so Norse, Egyptian, etc., who see Kratos as a threat and come to kill him, since he has brought about so much disorder through his actions. Kratos would then end up killing them all by playing them against each other, and it would ultimately explain why people don't believe in any of those gods from those mythologies anymore. However, I don't think this is what they'll be doing for the next God of War game, seeing as they are focusing specifically on Norse mythology, and we are playing as a different version of Kratos. There is another theory that involves Kratos being reborn or reincarnated in Norway after his death in God of War 3, so you would have a Norse version of him that way. He would be reborn with each cycle of mythological gods to inevitably end their rule one day. There was a prophecy that he would end Olympus's reign in Ghost of Sparta, so there might be one for all of the other pantheons of gods. He could also potentially be haunted by flashbacks of what happened in his previous life. This would certainly fit in with the phoenix symbol symbolizing rebirth that was found on the floor of where Kratos' body was at the end of the game, but for the sake of moving forward, I think they will end up leaving this thread hanging, and it sounds very contrived anyway. Based on the fact that the game has been in development since August 2013, and off of what we know so far, I still think it is due to come out in the spring of 2017, as I said in my earlier video, specifically at around March or April time. God of War games have a tradition of coming out in March in the respective year that they release in, and I think the same thing will happen for God of War 4. I think that when Scott Rhodey alluded to a reboot at Santa Monica, he was referring to the second AAA project that they have going on, which happened after the sci-fi open world game was cancelled at the beginning of 2014. I also think that their recent hiring spree is also related to this and not the new God of War game, although I could be wrong. Despite there being a hint at a CG trailer being at Sony's E3 conference this year, I am still pretty adamant that we are going to see a gameplay demo. It will no doubt look incredible as they are known for always pushing the limits of the current hardware, since God of War 3 and Ascension still look amazing to this day. I have always said that if Ascension was remastered for the PS4, it would still look better than a lot of the PS4 games currently out there, and a new God of War game would no doubt be a fantastic showcase of what the PS4 is capable of. If you think Uncharted 4 looks great, wait until you see what Santa Monica are going to do with God of War 4, especially if it is going to take advantage of the PS4K's hardware as it is rumoured to. If my theory is indeed true, I don't think it will end up being called God of War 4 when it's all said and done. While the protagonist looks very much like Kratos, it might technically still be a different character, so I feel like the game won't have a number at the end in a similar way to Infamous Second Son, and that God of War 4 is just a working title. You can expect some more in-depth coverage on God of War 4 from here on out, especially with E3 on the horizon, as the God of War series will always have a special place in my heart. It's pretty much kickstarted my interest in the gaming industry specifically, and I will never forget the impact the first game had on me. My next video will be on my thoughts of the PS4 Neo, which should hopefully be out soon. It is not something that I'm very happy about, but I'll leave it at that for now. Thank you for watching guys, and I'll speak to you again soon.